My topic is around what I consider to be extremely topical. Entrepreneurship, global economy, a very famous word nowadays, empowerment. And in particular, when we talk about empowerment, most people look at it from the perspective of financial empowerment. I'll try and give it a more broader perspective today. But more especially, is to look at this from our own country, Nigeria, because that is where we are situated in. But obviously, we are now in a global world, and as rightly been said, we are also now in an information age. I tell people that it's all about entrepreneurs now, even globally. The biggest companies in the world are started by what I call the real entrepreneurs, no inherited money. The Apples of this world, the Facebook of this world, they're the largest companies in the world, and they were started by individuals with a vision, but probably operating in an environment that actually empowered them. And you see from their own story, it's always not about money. But more especially, the global world is changing. Global world is changing. You have power shifting from the west to the east. 10 years ago, the richest countries in the world dominated about 2/3 of the world economy. Today, they're probably about 50%, and about 10 years' time, they'll be down to about 40%, meaning that global output will come from what they call the emerging markets. China is leading the way. India is roaring. The question you ask yourself is, where is Nigeria going to play its own part? But the reality is that we are in an information age. And with information, the world is a much smaller global economy, and all of us can partake in it. The challenge is, what role do you want to play in this? Clearly, we have all seen that developing entrepreneurs is the only way forward in growing this particular economy. We have to encourage self-development through various empowerment programs, and that is what we need to do. But the question now is, how do we create this environment for entrepreneurs to thrive? Clearly, from an empowerment perspective, a lot of programs are on empowerment. We've seen all kinds. There is Shopee, there is Bank of Industry. There are even specialized empowerment programs that try to look at what can we do for women. But clearly, empowerment from a financial perspective alone will not get us there. So I will start really my slides by looking at things from an economic, environmental perspective. We all know exactly where we are. And I think that slide that you have there with that picture actually shows us where we are. We have driven ourselves into a ditch that is totally avoidable. We use the word now that we are in a recession. I think we are more of a distressed economy rather than a recession. And I say the recession is probably just given an economic term to a feeling that we've had for some time. A feeling of extreme unhappiness and pain, financial trouble. It doesn't start last year. And we have an economic depression. And still, can we have an economy coming out of recession? Because most likely, from what I've seen, we'll come out of recession next year. We'll be out of recession. But the question is, the depression that we are in, are we going to come out of it? And I think that is really the challenge. So don't focus too much on recession. We should focus more about what exactly are the environmental things that are around us. And what are the signs that we've seen over the years that has confirmed this so-called recession? Stock market meltdown. We have an inflationary environment, high interest rates, layoffs and shutdowns, exchange rate depreciation, negative trade imbalances, outflow of foreign direct investment, and what I call a general lack of confidence in the economy. So that has been with us for a number of years. But the question is, how did we get ourselves into this? Why should we be talking about recession, or be talking about why should we be depressed in a country that has so many things? So why is Nigeria depressed? Why is our environment depressed? I have a slide here that gives you what I call the positive side. That most nations, if they have this as the foundation for them to build upon, they certainly will not be where we are. We are the 41st largest economy in the world. Last year we were first. Now that Naira has revalued, we are now second. Large population. And we have a very good, what they call a positive demography. We have more younger people. Therefore, we have a lot of people that should contribute towards the economic growth. So there's a population dividend that is ahead of us. We have a rural-urban drift. that it can be positive and also can be negative. But from the positive perspective, it is allowing us to grow what? Cities. Therefore, we are aggregating people around urban centers. What that means, the challenge for young people, what can I sell to those people that have been aggregated for us? So the key is, what can I sell to them for which I myself can make it? It's a well-diversified economy, and I think that point needs to be emphasized. We keep on repeating, we are not an oil economy. Oil just happens to account for the bulk of federal government income. And the way we have structured the economy means that we all now look up to federal government and forget that there are so many other areas that we can operate in. So it's a well-diversified economy, 45 active sectors. Then more interestingly, and that is the ticking time bomb, after Egypt, Nigeria is the largest newspaper market in the world. I do agree, we are moving away from print media. We are now into the internet. But the way in which we are using the internet, we are what? We are also a country in which information is now what? Freely what? Available. And with information, there is a lot that you can do. The challenge to our leaders sometimes is that you saw what happened in Egypt because of what? Freedom of what? Information. You saw the Arab Spring on the basis of what? The internet. People sharing information. So therefore, sometimes we ask ourselves, this change we talk about will surely come upon us, whether we like it or not, and the signs are there. Some few information as to the size of this economy and the sectors that are contributing to this economy. I have the one for 2015. I think the slide is there. If you cannot read it, I'll just try and go through them. The largest sector is what? Crop what? Production, followed by trade. The biggest area we make a lot of noise about, which is crude oil production and natural gas, it's only about under what? 10% of Nigeria's GDP. And I think the emir have kind of made a very valid point. How can you have a sector that is 10% of Nigeria's GDP go into meltdown and the whole country is in uproar? We have never asked ourselves that question. We should not be where we are because of the downturn in the oil economy. So we have driven ourselves into that ditch. The question is, when we come out of it, because we surely will come out of it, how do we ensure that we put things in place that we do not make the same mistake? I also have a slide here, just to have the statistics out there, as to the average growth sector, the areas that have grown over the last, 5 years, year on year. The biggest area is, guess what? Information and communication. That has been the fastest growth area over the last, 5 years. Followed by what? Real estate, then education, construction, arts and entertainment. Then if you now look at the last 1 year, just the last 1 year, up to second quarter of this year, the largest growth areas, construction, agriculture, education, arts, entertainment, again, information, then technological services. Those are the fastest growing areas. So as we talk about empowerment, as we talk about where do I key in, the question we ask ourselves, which particular area can I really go into? The statistics are out there as to the area Nigerians should be focusing on. But the question is, where are people looking at? I look at my sector, that is financial services. When people come to me and they say, I'm looking for a job. The first thing I say, my sector is not creating jobs. You have come what? To the wrong what? To the wrong place. The current generation, they're both lucky and unlucky. They are lucky from the perspective is that there is massive what? Opportunities ahead of them. But they are unlucky that they are not being shaped and being channeled in the right what? Direction. I spoke about the information age. If anybody is to approach me today and come and say, I want to come and see you. There are a lot of people that I mentor and they say, I want to come and see you. I'm looking for a job. I want you to help in financial services. And you land in front of me and you come to my office. I keep on repeating, nobody is going to pay you a penny for your ability to roll out facts. Nobody's going to pay you for it. They might admire you, that you have a brain that seems to, a photographic brain that can dictate facts. But the truth is, why should I pay you for something I can look up on my what? On my device. Therefore, lots of information is out there. The question is, what are you going to do about it? If you come and sit in front of me, and you say, Mr. Olashore, I want a job. And I say, yes. And the first thing you're telling me is that, oh, I don't know anything about your business. And you come with the normal refrain. But if you employ me and you train me, I will learn and I will contribute. And I'm looking at him. If I employ, I train you. What I tell most people is that you are never too young to use information at your fingertips. I would have expected that by now, if you know my name, you can easily Google my name, so you have an idea of probably at least what I look like. So nobody can pretend to be me if you turn up in my office. I expect you also have an idea of my likes and dislikes. It's all available. I expect you to have looked at what my company does. Even our results are out there, whether we are doing well or not. You can tell our market share. You can even tell the kind of things. If people resign, they put it all over LinkedIn. It's all over the place. So the first thing you should be telling me is, Mr. Olashore, this is your business, and this is how I can help your business grow. If you are not saying that, after about 2 minutes, I'll probably just say, I think that is the end of the what? Of the conversation. That is the reality of what you are all contending with. Don't come and tell me that my P&L is this. I'll say that's a statement of fact. The question is, what are you going to do with the information? There is no business that will not want people to join them to make the business what? Grow. So if you're not having a conversation as to how you can help and grow the business, what are we talking about? Nobody is going to start with, when you join me, I will train you. After I've trained you, you will help me. It's not about what? It's not about favors anymore. And the information is out there. So what can we do with this economic environment? How do we do this? I have a snapshot. There is a raging argument going on about the $30 billion loan that the government wants to. And you see the snapshot of opinion. Don't approve the loan. They will do what? They will steal it again. The issue is this. If you're in a recession, you have to spend your way out of it. And the only way you can spend your way out of it is two. It's either you have savings, which we clearly don't have. The only alternative is to do what? Borrow. So I keep on wondering why we're having this argument. The key is for all of us to monitor as to where the money that is borrowed that is going into. And to make sure it's going into sectors that is what? That will be productive. I've given a snapshot of what I call from an economic perspective, what everybody is after. We want infrastructural development. We want low interest rates. We want reduced inflation. We want increased productivity. We want access to the market. We want to reduce the cost of doing business. More importantly, we need legal reform. I think that's also very topical nowadays. The question is, we have to start from what? Somewhere. There is nowhere you start from that those in that sector will not complain. That why me? And point your fingers to the other sectors. Why are you going after us? We are politicians. What about private sector? They're just as corrupt. We have to start from somewhere. The challenge is what support can we do when we start this. So that is my view on that. That is the environment that we're in. We have to pick one, focus on it, make sure we get the right results, and more especially for Nigerians, let's ensure that we get the right lessons. Because our challenge to date is that we don't get the right lessons, even when we go through what? Go through hardship. And when you don't get the right lessons, even when prosperity turns up, we will fritter it all away. I will start narrowing down on the reason why I was probably brought here to speak to you, which is about what? Empowerment. But like I said, empowerment without understanding the context in which you are being empowered, I'm not so sure will do justice to that particular topic. I'm also part of the internet group. I'm also on the social media. And there's a video that I think probably captures the whole issue of empowerment on how Nigerians see how they see empowerment. But I got some very key points from what the young man said. Some very key points, because empowerment is what? Topical. Let's start from the first part. Government should do what? Empower me. Have you? And he defined empowerment by, I'm a barber. Government should give me what? Shop. Government should do what? Have you? Government should do this. Government should do this. Government should do this. Have you? Then he now put the clincher. If they don't, I'll be what? No. He said, I'll be a thief. Have you seen the linkages? If government does not do this, doesn't do this, doesn't do this, his natural conclusion is that I'll be what? A thief. You see, that is part of our challenges of what? Empowerment and the way we have defined it. What can somebody do for us? And if they don't, what will I do? Unfortunately, I must say this. That thinking probably permeates through most people. Because we've seen people that we have actually what? Empowered. Empowerment comes in many ways. They get political office. We've empowered them through our vote. And what happens when they get what? Empowered? Huh? They are still what? A thief. That's the bottom line. There's no other way to call a thief is a thief. Corruption is stealing. They're a thief. So the guy that is not empowered is ending up being a thief. The guy that is empowered is ending up what? Being a thief. And that has landed us exactly where we are. That we have now driven ourselves into what? Into a ditch. And we are figuring out how to come out of it. So the challenge to us is not about really empowerment, because people have been what? Empowered. I always say this, for some of us, our parents were also a product of empowerment, in that even all their school fees were paid, they got scholarship, they were sent abroad. So they were what? They were empowered. In the late 50s and 60s, fees were paid. They had bursaries, went abroad, came back, and they started the whole journey of nation what? Building. The issue that we've been going the wrong way for quite some time. In the 70s, when those who are now empowered got to the commanding heights of the economy and they became what? The elite on the back of oil money, the question is, what did they do with the empowerment? What we simply did in the 70s was to have an overvalued naira and went on what? A shopping spree abroad. And the mantra was, it's not money that is our problem, but what we can do with what? Money. And we really went on a shopping spree in the what? 70s. By the time we got to the 80s, we were in that ditch. And we now had to start all over again. God has been so kind that oil income came back again, and we did exactly what? The same thing. So the issue is that empowerment is not just about finances, it's about what? A process which can be initiated and accompanied by advice, counsel, orientation programs, and not just about what? Finance. It's through that process, individuals, organizations, and groups who seem powerless or deprived of the means to consider themselves can become what? Empowered. So empowerment is about developing skills and the capacity to gain some control over what? Your lives. Capacity to gain control over what? Your lives. So that you don't go about pointing at somebody should do this, somebody should do this. And in exercising this control, you must do it without infringing the rights of what? Of what? Others. That is when you feel what? Empowered. And that's what empowerment is all about. So therefore, if you are empowered, even if you come to me and I now give you financial support to aim to, let's say, motivate you, and also to make you also feel that empowerment is real. You yourself must see yourself as an agent of what? An agent of change. You must be able to use that knowledge and skills in furthering what? Your own what? Interest. And you must work in partnership with others. And therefore, you must develop problem-solving skills to address the situation that we find ourselves in. So empowerment, there are many empowerment programs around. I've been reading the one on Bank of Industry. It appears to be extremely what? Extremely generous. Addressed at young people. We'll give you money, we'll give you money. But the question is, what are we giving you money for? Which sector are you operating in? I am a member of my empowerment group in my own church. And what I found very interesting when we started the empowerment program, we had seed money. Naturally, we told everybody in church, please, we have a pot of money and we want to use that as our own empowerment program. What was our challenge? Of course, lots of people turned up. You'll be surprised how the membership of the church gained. How everybody all became members of different units within the church. All of a sudden, somebody with the most awful voice is a member of the choir. Somebody that cannot wake up at 8 wants to join the guild and be at the entrance when you know you have to be there 1 hour before the service comes. But it's good. The biggest challenge that I got, or my biggest surprise, even within a church, was that people were not turning up. And they expected us to empower them to be first-class smugglers. They will speak eloquently as to how they want to import. Nothing wrong in doing trading, And they tell me how it is much better to avoid a papa pot and bring it through semi. They are able to eloquently describe how to evade customs duty. They are able to, and you keep on asking yourself, are you pretty sure this is the empowerment that we are all about? For the other set, between 90% fall into that group. Another group who are more concerned about how to trade in pirated goods. Therefore, they are not the smugglers, but they are more concerned as to, it is much cheaper for me to pirate somebody else's music, go somewhere, run out to 1,000 tips, and get somewhere and start selling. And they've done their business plan and the profit margin. And you are there just asking yourself that how did we get to this? How did we get to this? That within a church, people seem not even know the difference between what is right and what is wrong. I tell people, it's one thing to make money, but try and understand why you are making money. Because if you make money the wrong way, you'll be so confident that your method is right. You'll probably now take on mentoring others along your way. And when you are told that that is wrong, you will have a very good argument as to what do you mean. I'm successful. I can't tell me my method is what? My method is wrong. That's why I must commend Pastor Samademi on the fact that this church is all about what? Leadership. All these issues we are talking about is a failure of what? Leadership. That people at one point in time at the commanding heights have not laid the right what? Examples. And when things have gone wrong, we find a way. I think it's only in Nigeria here that you commit criminal offenses and they say it's a family what? Affair. Family affair on a criminal offense. The law should what? Take his what? Course. So that at the end of it, people can point and say, if you go down that route, this is where you will what? End up. When you have no consequences for bad behavior, just like we have none so far, you will end up in the what? In the ditch. Your biggest challenge, when I look around the audience, that will come out of this. This economy will grow. The issue is, let's ensure that rather than fall into a ditch, we don't fall off what? A cliff. Because when you fall off a cliff, to reverse back is almost what? Difficult. But the signs are there, and we have to take heed. A large economy. Information is around. Everybody can react. But the question you ask yourself is, how do we now shape people? And how do you use the information tools that are around to make sure they get the right information and take the right decisions? To narrow down on the financial aspect, what are the key issues in financial empowerment process? The first one is financial information, education, and counseling. You must have access to financial information, education, and counseling. When people come and say, I've done my business plan and I need funding, the first question that turns up is the funding that you require. Simple basic thing. Is it debt you want or is it what? Equity. Most people are quite fast to say, if only you can give me a loan, I'll pay you back in 6 months, 1 year. My experience has told me, most likely it will not work. Well, even the best laid plans don't work according to plan. Therefore, you must have financial information and education. So when we now ask you, okay, how much have you invested in the business so far? Sometimes your investment might not be money. It might be commitment. It can be the market research that you have done to show us that at least people have not done some basic things. So you must have financial information. You must have access to safe and affordable financial products. The biggest challenge in our environment, when people come and I see people eloquently argue about interest rates, you almost feel as if you should tell them that what has interest rate got to do with you? Inflation, yes, because the cost of goods and services are going up. When it comes to interest rate, if you are a depositor, yes, you have interest, that your interest must go up so you can earn more on your deposit. If you are borrowing from an institution, yes, you also have interest in that you don't want your cost of borrowing to go up, i.e. the cost of servicing. But the truth of it is that the bulk of Nigerians don't have access to financial loans. The bulk of Nigerians, not the elite, they have access, but the bulk of Nigerians don't have access to loans in which they are now eloquently talking about. A lot of people are starting their businesses with the classic FFF, friends, family, and fools. And obviously, again, if you're able to get it off the ground, you first try by getting loans from people that are what? Around you. The formal financial sector is shut away from most Nigerians. Now, if we know this, I will now want to address it. How do we get onto what? The financial what? Ladder. And I've read some things online. I've not confirmed with him whether it's true or not, about the statement made by Pastor Demi about the issue of land use decree. They appropriated people's assets and kept it in the hands of government. And for you now to even have title to it, you must now go to a faceless person that is not even nowhere near your what? Your community. If we say 40-something% of the economy is around crop production and agriculture, and there are no title to agricultural lands, and without title, we can't even get onto the first rung of the ladder of financial empowerment if you're a farmer. Haven't you excluded the bulk of Nigerians from this? That is the reality. I ask myself, if I'm to be any governor, the first thing I almost want to do, Lagos State can probably get away with it, but once I start living in Lagos State, almost try and see if you can issue your vote free of charge to all your farmers. Almost free of charge. I'll tell you the beauty about it. I'm not in the policy-making unit. But the reality of it is that if you don't have people with title, once they come for title and it's free, first of all, you have their names, you have their addresses, you know how to contact them. At least you start having what? Data. And once you have data, the first rung of we empowering government and government also being responsible to you is what? Taxation. How do you tax people which you don't know their names? How do you tax them? So the very few people that you have access to, you are killing them with all forms of what? Taxes. But I can understand their point of view. If I give away free C of O, what of the money that you are currently making from all those exorbitant charges when people come for? And I've told them so many times. The guy that owns a farmland, at this point in time, nobody is contesting ownership with him. Nobody's contesting. He goes there, he farms, he goes home. Nobody, even the whole environment, his community agrees it is his what? His land. Why do you think he'll ever come to you in a state capital and pay you money he doesn't have for the privilege of you confirming what he believes he owns? You see, you just will not what? Will not do it. If you don't empower them by giving them that title, it is that empowerment of that title that makes them now get to the first rung of financial what? Empowerment, because they now have what? Title. It's a chicken and egg. They don't want to lose current income. They get it for the sake of what? Future, what called annuity income. But they have to get what? Past it. And those are all the issues. So when I say access to safe and financial products, for the farmer, is bringing his land. For some people, they are bringing their what? Their reputation. They are bringing their reputation. Because sometimes it is your reputation that will give you access to what? Financial what? Products. So what are you doing in building that what? Reputation? What we call personal what? Equity. If you cannot bring land, are you bringing what? Personal equity to the table? And obviously, access and ability to save and asset building what? Opportunities. And that's where rule of law comes in. Why will I build an asset in an environment that I believe somebody can come and take over it? That is reality. Why would I build assets or invest in an environment? So you start making it, why would I invest in an environment where you believe somebody can just come and expropriate it? I crack a joke that where I live, I woke up one day and I saw a court judgment on my wall. Apparently a family had now gone to court somewhere, and they got a judgment that says that my property is now theirs, and that I should report to them to come and discuss the issue. I went back to my room, opened my cupboard, brought out my file, and I looked at the C of O. My name was on it. I went outside, looked at the court judgment. The truth of the matter is we had to engage lawyers, and we've started a very serious process to even start, first of all, to try and upturn that judgment, because it's a judgment of a court. They might just come one day and they'll come with people to come and levy. So look at what is now costing us for what is legitimately yours. Now, tell me how I'll ever be encouraged to even go into the first and fixed asset when you believe that a title that says it's mine apparently is not mine. The government that issued the document has not turned up to join us in court to defend us, to say, come. What is going on here? We are left to our own what? Devices. Now, you can see how he gets ourselves into a spiral. The guy that is empowered, that has made it, is not what? Encouraged to invest in his own what? Environment. So what is he doing? He's empowering them in Dubai, empowering them in London, empowering them in other saner environments where rule of law is well what? Established. When what is yours is what? Yours. And if somebody wants to take it from you, you'll have to what? Give you what? At least we reach an amicable commercial settlement. Nobody takes something that is yours. And that brings us to the larger question in Nigeria. When I talk about all these arguments going to resource control, goes into all these things. We're not going to go into that. But you see, there are things about our what? Our foundation that we have to address. Information is out there. Sometimes when I talk to leadership, don't think people don't know. You cannot run away and say, this is the way we've always done it. Even what we call always is what I call recent past, 20, 30, at best, 40 years. This was not the structure in the 60s. This was not the structure at independence. But somewhere along the line, we've gotten ourselves where we are. Now, to come down to what? Entrepreneurship. You are now very well empowered. The environment is ripe. Rule of law is in place. So therefore now, you want to be what? The entrepreneur. And that can be scary because there's no guarantee that the business will work. And the entrepreneur may end up losing what? Money. Our challenge is how do we empower ourselves? That even those with entrepreneurial dreams can pursue it. And you can see what happened in their own story. At the time, what? No jobs, no money, but they kept on what? With their dream. Because they ultimately believe that what? If we get a breakthrough, I'll be what? I'll be successful. The beauty about that is that I always tell people, everybody can make money, but it's how you make it. And the story of that, which I'll also talk about, is the fact that entrepreneurship, from my own perspective, is about what? Stimulating economic growth with generation of employment opportunities for what? Others. Empowerment clearly is not, you can land on a contract. Or entrepreneurs do not land on a contract. With a nice margin, you make the margin and you pocket it and you end up in Dubai. That's not entrepreneur. You might call yourself an entrepreneur, but truly, that is not. It's also about what? Development of local technological base. Therefore, you must put something back into what? Into your environment. Therefore, for us in Nigeria, it's about conservation of foreign exchange earnings of our government. If you are not doing anything that is along those particular lines, generation of employment opportunities, local technological base, and conserving our foreign exchange, what are you doing? You're really an entrepreneur. Almost like a buccaneer. You're just taking advantage of what I call the environment is giving you opportunities. So to me, those are things that we have to work on, and you must keep that what in mind. But you must know that all this can work in the context of what? Capitalism. There's no argument in Nigeria here that at least it's almost a capitalist environment where there's freedom of choice. We have freedom of choice as to what to do, and living with the consequences of it. In theory, private ownership of private property is well what? Established, except for one or two funny laws that are a product of the 60s that we really need to deal with. That try to ensure that if you have private property, it is yours for generations to come, unless somebody has to buy it away from you and cannot be expropriated. And the truth of it is that you also have to operate in a competitive what? Environment. So nobody is to guarantee you what? A living. You don't say because I've been successful, therefore it is not my birthright. No. We must make sure keep on having laws that promote what? Competition. Because it is a cause of competition that you also have what? Innovation. And through innovation, hopefully you have what? Lower prices and what? Diversity of products that we have. But we have environmental challenges. I'll just try and skip through them. Corruption is quite key. No need to go on that. Inadequate legal and policy framework. There is nothing protecting the small SME. If you are starting your new business, even if a big company, a multinational, decides to open a small unit and open a new company, it's going to pay almost the same price as a small struggling person who is starting a business. There's no SME pricing anyway. Instead, anybody that turns up to float a company, you now have the full weight of regulation and policy land upon you. I had my own example of that. I started a new company. It Well, I incorporated a company years ago, but it was on the shelf burner. I actually wrote to the tax office. This company is not doing any business, so please don't expect VAT return. Don't expect withholding tax. I'm never going to do accounts. And I thought I was doing the right thing. I had the misfortune this year of now writing to the same tax office to inform them that, okay, now I have started what? Business. And hopefully, what that means is you start expecting my VAT returns and all those kind of things. And I saw the full weight of the tax office being a revenue generation company. They landed on my premises and immediately stamped on the wall, not even of my own building, of another building in front, this tax notice that says you cannot even touch it without them. And said they came because they noticed that we have not been filing tax VAT. Because I now prompted them to tell them I've started business. And they now noticed that I've been in business, or the company was incorporated years ago. They were now looking for the tax returns of intervening years. And they put an embarrassing, all the entities to them. First of all, by the people occupying the building, that, look, this company is not in, we share the same address, but it's not in our own side. It's at the back. They said no. And they left this embarrassing thing. Almost for anybody passing, they look like fraudulent. And because CFCT is also pasting things all over the place, we're all very wary about having any legitimate looking, with the seal of Nigeria on your premises. After we've gone to them, they now said the company just started. They now said, so therefore you will undergo a tax audit, a brand new business. We've not made a couple in revenue yet. I said, tax audit. Okay, fair enough. So now they now gave me the list. Go and bring your payroll. I said, there's no payroll. I'm still the only one in this business. I was forced now to call my accountant. And my accountant proceeded by sending me a nice letter to say for intervening with the tax office and to join me in the tax audit, I have a bill of ₦500,000 to pay my accountant. No revenue yet. But I'm started getting bills from all the stakeholders around me in order for me to deal with the tax office. And you have to deal with them. You're almost asking them that, come on, isn't somebody just thinking a bit? At least give me benefit of the doubt, and give me 1 year, or 2 years, then come back. Now, if you do this to every SME, I'm asking myself, I'm going to go and change my incorporation. I'm liquidating the company. I'll be a business name. I'll now go back and be Abimbola, Olashore, and co. Do you get my point? And I will not get all this. You can see how they are stifling innovation. If I can't have limited liability by floating a company, why do you think I'll ever take risk? Limited liability status goes with what? Risk what? Taking. If I don't have limited liability, I will not innovate. Because if something goes wrong, you're saying, unlimited liability means that if something goes wrong, they are coming to throw me out of my house. Because it's now personal to me. Sometimes you ask yourself, are we practicing capitalism or we are not? And I think those are some of the issues we should look at. Infrastructure is well known. I will start rounding up. And I'll round up by saying, your theme this year is about maximizing your what? Your influence. And how do you maximize your influence? It's all about what? Social entrepreneurship. And it's in the topic that I'm to talk about. And what's social entrepreneurship? It's really about starting a business and using business venture techniques to develop, fund, and implement innovative solutions to social, cultural, and environmental what? Issues. It's not just about making money. It's about solving what? A social issue. And what are the social entrepreneurs? Usually, they're drivers of change. They are united in the ability to adopt a mission to sustain social what? Social value. Recognize and pursue new opportunities, and they engage in a process of continuous innovation. And what do I mean by social entrepreneurship? And I'll try and, there's a slide there that talks about the difference between business and social entrepreneurs. If you are a businessman, your goal is to capture a market securely, earn profits, maximize shareholder value. You take business risk, competitor, and your link to social problems are what? Indirect. When you're a social entrepreneur, you are creating sustainable solutions for what? Social change. You are advancing social aims. Profit is just a means of financial sustainability. And in most cases, you are having a collaborative effort for societal impact. So what we are saying here is that profit is a byproduct of what you are trying to do, and it's not the sole reason. And the reason why we talk about social entrepreneurship is that the institutions that have survived over centuries have that at the core of their essence. I had to show that slide about the structure of Nigeria. You get to show you that where are the areas? You can see the areas. Agriculture. What can anybody do along that line? Do you get it? Because we need to feed ourselves. What can somebody do in healthcare? What can somebody do in education? And I think the perfect example of a social entrepreneurship institution that has survived over the years is the one we are sitting on in. A church. You ask yourself, how come they call the church the oldest institution in the world? Because at the core of the church is the fact that they are doing things, apart from salvation, they're also doing things for the poor and things for the maximum number of what? Of people. So over the years, if you have that at the core, why won't you survive? Why won't you be around? Why won't people celebrate you? People doesn't talk about end of the year. You've only just made money. And therefore, if you look at what the church is doing in education, in health, go to US, they are the largest providers of healthcare. They are the ones looking after the people. That is what the church is all about. So therefore, you have to find a way of modeling yourself as to what can I do in my entrepreneurial challenge? Because if it's all about societal impact, what can I do along those lines to ensure that I myself can contribute to society? And it's only entrepreneurship along that line that can help. What are the critical factors? We know our problems. Ease of doing business, our competitiveness, corruption is a major issue. And I think they are all well established and are things that we have to deal with. So in rounding up, my final slide, I have a quote here by Chinua Achebe, which is quite apt, in which he said, the problem with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of what? Leadership. There's nothing basically wrong with the Nigerian character. There's nothing wrong with Nigerian land or climate or water or air or anything else. The Nigerian problem is the unwillingness or inability of its leaders to rise to the responsibility, to the challenge of personal example, which are the hallmarks of what? True what? Leadership. So I must commend Pastor Samadiyemi for what he's doing along those lines, because really, that is the core of our own particular problem, and that is something I must keep on encouraging. I thank you very much for having me here, and God bless you all. Thank you.